I just think that women should be submissive. Submissive not by force, but by consent, because both partners respect each other. What do I mean? Both partners agree that they're not going to use foul language by swearing at each other when they're angry. It's okay to use swear words at when talking about other people privately because you didn't like their actions or how they treated you, but it's not okay to say swear words at each other, because when you have swear words at each other, you lose that respect, and then there's violence happens from that. Violence by saying mean things, verbal violence, and that verbal violence affects the home environment. And I think women should be submissive when both partners agree that there's going to be respect. And what do I mean by respect? As I previously stated, respect comes from not saying swear words at each other when you're angry. Only at other people. And I learned this from my Aunt Giselle and Lenny, because they don't swear at each other when they're angry. They just politely say, hey, I didn't like this and this and this, but they do it privately. And but they never disrespect each other by saying swear words to each other, even if they want to really bad sometimes. They don't, because they don't think it's necessary, because it makes the situation worse, even when you're really upset. I'm going to go more into detail of what I mean to be submissive, what's the importance of submissiveness in relationships, and why is a good thing. Why is it a good thing? We have been through generations, especially in the United States, votes for women. We all have the right to vote, are their argument. And yes, I believe women should vote, absolutely, because without rights for women, there is violence and disrespect against them. For example, I heard that in other countries they hit women for punishment if they did something wrong, and I just think that that's so sad, because that kind of submissiveness is not healthy if there's violence, physical violence or verbal violence. There shouldn't be submissiveness to someone who's hitting you physically, or being rude to you verbally. There shouldn't be submissiveness in that case. You should say bye-bye when you're dating and you find that out. That's why it's important to date, to get to know that person. To get to know that person and make sure that they're a good person for you. Alright, so I want to talk about a video before I talk more further into women's rights, about J-Lo. I love J-Lo with all of my heart. I am subscribed to her. Her song, I Ain't Your Mama, is so catchy too. You should listen to it. And it has a catchy rhythm. However, I want to point something out. She says in her video that she is not going to cook all day or do the laundry. That's what she says in her video, because she's not the mother of her partner. That's how she specifically sings in this song. I think that it is easy to say that. I think it's for her easy to say that because she has millions in her bank account and she can just hire someone to do that for her and her husband, which is the reason that it's easy for her to say that. She's not going to cook or do the laundry. For a middle class or a poor woman, it's important that she helps around the house, or else people think she's lazy and ends up in divorce. For example, my mother didn't like washing the dishes, but she didn't have money to hire someone to do it for her. This resulted in daily arguments in high school between my stepfather and her. So when my mother didn't feel like doing the dishes, my stepfather used to yell at her for him working all day long outside and she staying in the house taking care of Steven without cooking or washing the dishes. Steven was a baby at that time. He was my brother. So even if we want to take J-Lo's advice, if a man is supporting a family by going out to work, it's vital for the woman who is staying at home to do those things, which is wash the dishes and cook. My mom wasn't lazy. She just didn't feel motivated to do it, like J-Lo. However, I learned that in a relationship, it's important for both people to help each other out. To also look at it from a different perspective, my Aunt Giselle shares that responsibility with my Uncle Lenny because they both work. However, the majority of the time, my Aunt Giselle does the dishes and my uncle the laundry. I think in a relationship that is not rich, like my Aunt Giselle and Lenny, they are middle class, I think it's important to help each other out. Then from a third perspective, my grandma is submissive to my grandpa and washes the dishes and does the laundry. She would never be submissive if my grandpa was involved in fraud or wanted to do something bad to someone else. However, my grandma would never do that anyway, so she is a positive, submissive wife. No one should be submissive if the husband wants to do something bad. I repeat, no woman should be submissive if the husband wants to do something bad. If that happens, you advise him to not do that. That is positive submission by saying, hey honey, I don't think that's a good idea. You should do the right thing and do this and this and this. That is positive submission to your husband. To her, to my grandma, she is submissive out of love for my grandpa. And she does the dishes and food because she loves my grandpa and wants to pamper him and let him know through doing that she loves him. That is positive submission. That positive submission is doing that food and laundry out of love, even if sometimes we don't feel like doing it. My Aunt Giselle sometimes does both the food and laundry. It depends in the day, but helping each other out is also not a bad thing. So couples helping each other out is not a bad thing too. Alright, we're going to look at an article it was very interesting. It said 10 harmful beliefs that perpetuate violence against women and girls. I think this is an important topic when talking about submission and submissive behaviors among women. And I think submission should be embraced. It should be a positive thing when you're with the right partner. Because when you're with the right partner, you both respect each other. And yes, sometimes you get mad at each other, but that's part of life. That's part of being married or having a boyfriend. That's normal. But it's talking things out and working things out through conversations that we have with each other that makes us who we are. All right. So I think the downside of being submissive, many women think, is that it's violence against women and girls. But I'm here to prove that it's not violence. So being submissiveness is not violence. And this article is very interesting. It's from Oxfam International. And it says, 1. Women must be submissive to men. They think that the 10 harmful beliefs that make violence against women and girls is that women must be submissive to male family members in all aspects of her life. Rigid gender roles often result in the expectation that women be submissive to male family members. When married, women are expected to obey their husbands, act according to their wishes, and not strive for equal decision making. In the Solomon Islands, 49% of respondents agreed a good wife should obey her husband even if he's wrong. Okay, the last part, women are not robots to say yes to every desire that a man wants. There needs to be compromise. It is good that the other half of the Solomon Island think the opposite. I personally believe that it's important to say yes to a man and his desires if they are ethical solutions. If they are unethical choices that he wants to make, a woman should be able to voice her disagreement. And this is what the United States Bill of Rights and the women's rights in America and Mexico protect. Alright, number 2. I happen to disagree with number 1 because not all submissive women are with violent men. Not all submissive women are with violent men. There's some men who respect women, and it's easy to be submissive because there's respect in the relationship. By how? By not swearing at each other and not yelling at each other. You can raise your tone of voice like this. I just don't agree with that. Say that. Say it like that. I just don't agree with that. But not like yell, I just don't agree with that, and you're all beep, 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 beep. That's not right. Because once you lose once you start swearing like a sailor to the other person, they're gonna lock out. They're not gonna hear you, and it's gonna create resentment, and that is not a positive submission. Both of you should say, hey, I don't yell at you, please don't yell at me. It's okay to voice out your opinions when being submissive. Hey honey, hey, I don't believe that we should do that because this is my concern. And physical violence, you should never be submissive to someone who disrespects you constantly. After you've said, please, I don't yell at you, please don't yell at me. If he does that, then you should break up with that person. Alright, number 2, men are expected to exercise cohesive control. A research from the Latin America and the Caribbean LAC region found young men have significant control over their partner's social media use and phones, with 80% of young people saying their male friends monitor their partner's phone. My mother used to check on my stepfather's phone. She used to do that because she thought he was cheating. I think it's normal for some females to do that, but when a male does it, that is looked down as abusive. I just think that's not fair. If you really don't like that, you should tell your partner nicely that you don't like it when he searches your phone. I think you should be able to voice your opinions when being submissive. Being submissive is by respecting your husband, pampering him by washing dishes sometimes and for him, or doing it all the time, for in return for his love and his respect for you. Alright, number 3. Men have the right to discipline women for incorrect behavior. The Tunisian research found physical violence was justified when a woman does not obey her husband. In the Solomon Islands, 65% of women respondents and 35% of male respondents agree with the statement, it is acceptable for a man to hit or hurt his wife if she doesn't do the housework to his liking. Women are not children to discipline. And children should not be hit either. And that's my deep belief. Children should not be hit. I think you traumatize children by hitting them. You should just explain things nicely and ground them when they're misbehaving. But that's another topic. But here in this case, women are not children to discipline. My grandpa doesn't hit my grandpa, doesn't hit my grandma. And my Uncle Lenny never hits my Aunt Giselle because that would be unacceptable in a relationship. And treating the wife as a child to discipline is abuse because they're grown-ups. I repeat that. Treating the wife as a child to discipline is abuse because they are grown-ups. 4. Women cannot deny their male partner's sex. In Tunisia, youth state that women should always be ready to satisfy their men's sexual urges. In Solomon Island, 52% of men believe a woman is obliged to have sex with her husband even if she doesn't feel like it. I'm sorry, but this is the sad fact. Women are not sex toys. If it is abuse if someone forces you to have sex. If the woman believes that she should satisfy her husband by having sex, they are not bad. That would be consent from the woman. However, if they don't think that way, the male partner should respect their choice. And this is what leads to rape if the woman doesn't want sex. 5. Sexual harassment is normal. This is powerfully demonstrated by the LAC regional research that found 75% of young people state their male friends believe harassment is normal. I think this is a very touchy topic. I have a friend who I shared my experiences with. I told her that several men would whistle when I passed by or said, "Hola hermosa," which means hello gorgeous. And some would call me güera, which means in English, you are like a hot, sexy blonde. Translated, it means also, hey there, beautiful blondie. They say that even if you are not blondie, they say that even if you're not blondie, to tell you you are hot. Thank you to all the people who've called me güera. My friend thought that was sexual harassment, but I don't. I take that as a compliment. If someone asks me out after saying that, and he is butt ugly, I just say, I have a boyfriend, but thank you. That is how I deal with it. But I actually enjoy people's compliments that I'm beautiful or they think that I am. So sometimes these people, it's important to be kind to them because they're just praising you for your beauty. They're just saying you're beautiful. Hey, beautiful. Oh my God, that girl is really hot. Or, hey, I have the boner for that girl. that kind of speech should be treated as a compliment. And I think we looked at it to like, I think sometimes we have to be relaxed and take it easy, because not all sexual harassment is bad. Because sometimes if you take sexual harassment, should be treated seriously. If it's like forced rape or something like that, that's not acceptable. That is sexual harassment. Touching each other in inappropriate places, that is bad sexual harassment. There's no such thing as good sexual harassment, but it's okay to have compliments in the street and people whistling at you. That's not bad. I think it should be looked as good and it should be taken as a compliment. And the other part, the negative one, is touching inappropriately when you don't want to be touched, then that's unacceptable. But if they're just saying, hey, beautiful, in the street, or I can't whistle for the life of me. I can't. It doesn't come out. But yeah, I think that should be taken when it's verbal, and saying how you're so hot down the street. You say thank you. And if he asks you out, say, I have a boyfriend. That's all you have to say. Again, physical touching is unacceptable and should be reported to the authorities if you didn't want to be touched sexually. But verbal one shouldn't be taken too seriously. It should be more like a compliment. That's my 2 cents. That's what I believe. Alright, 6. Women experience violence because they are dressed provocatively. Among the countries involved in the study, it is common to see communities blaming the actions of women to justify male sexual entitlement and violence. Stigma is often placed on those who have experienced violence, blaming the survivor for abuse. In the regional LAC's research, 7 out of 10 young men aged 15 to 19 blame women for the violence they experienced because they were dressed provocatively or out on the street late at night. In Mexico, people, my grandpa always warns me to dress appropriately, and yes, this is an issue even in Mexico. Many people respect how you dress, but if you are dressed provocatively at nighttime, you're just asking for it. In the morning, you get respected. You just might hear them say, "Huera! Hey there, beautiful." Many Mexican people out out of respect to other people's partners, don't dress provocatively. The main problem is at nighttime. That is when you see druggies or criminals that want to sleep with you if you dress provocatively. So in the morning, just expect someone to say, "Wera." In tourist places like Cancun, they respect how you dress even if it's provocatively. Cancun is good at this because I've been there. And even if you dress provocatively, they respect that because and if you're in the beach too. I think women's sexuality from dressing provocatively should be praised, and women who feel insecure should do exercise. But I also believe that it depends. If you're with your family or friends in certain situations like a wedding, you should not dress provocatively in a way that you would draw attention to you instead of the bride. Okay? So, yes. Number 7. All women should become mothers. The LAC study found 79% of young women believe that all women should become mothers. These beliefs are so strong that one young woman in Cuba stated, "I think every woman is a mother, even if she doesn't have children." I agree with the Cuban lady who said every woman is a mother, because even if you don't have children, you could be a mother-like figure to someone who is your friend and is close to you or their children. I think women should embrace their femininity and be proud to want to be a mother. However, I also believe that women who don't want children shouldn't be forced. I changed my desire for children. It became stronger when I learned through my Aunt Giselle how to deal with her temper tantrums and how to raise them without violence or spankings, which she doesn't do. She has spanked my cousin rarely. When I say rarely, it's rare. Rare. Once a year. Once a year. Or lower than that. Or nothing. I think children shouldn't be hit all the time, each time that they misbehave, but that is another topic. 8. Girls are valued as wives, not as individuals. More than 700 million girls worldwide have been forced to marry before the age of 18. In Nigeria, this was summarized as you are worth more as a wife than as a daughter. I don't believe in arranged marriage. Life is too short to be forced to marry someone you don't like or love. That is abuse. I also don't think Nigerians are bad for wanting their daughters to get married. However, I would advise them, if I could, to also embrace single women, because no one should be rushed into marriage. Marriage should come from loving that person. I agree that we should look up to married women too, because that is a beautiful stage in a woman's life. 9. Heterosexuality is the only sexual orientation that is acceptable. The LAC International research found that 73% of young women 20 to 25 and 67% of young men 20 to 25 too believe their friends believe that lesbians should not show their sexual orientation in public. I am not a lesbian, but just because I am not a lesbian does not mean that this gives me the right to look down on women who love women, because to me, love is love. It doesn't matter where that love is coming from. You have to learn to respect different sexual orientations. And just because I am not lesbian does not give me the right to judge or criticize someone else and think that I am better than them. As long as they are not murdering anyone or doing fraud like Wall Street, then people should be allowed to practice their love on other people, regardless of their sexual orientation. I always think that love towards your brothers and sisters in this world is normal, even if you love the same sex. Yes, I'm religious, and I think that we are all one, and we should respect each other's sexual orientations. 10. Divorced women have less value. In Papua New Guinea, the research highlighted the marginalization of divorced women and widows, who are seen as having less value since they don't have the monetary value of a bride price anymore. Furthermore, they are considered to be property of the family-in-law who paid for them in the first place. Therefore, they are not respected in their families and often are not protected against violence. The LAC regional research found that 59% of young women and men 20 to 25 think one of the main reasons why women endure violence is their lack of financial autonomy. This is not true. This is not true in the United States. So if you are discriminated because you're divorced, go to the United States, because they are more open-minded and a lot of divorced people date and marry again. I swear to you. You're divorced? Marry me. Would be there if you're a nice person too. Don't ever kill yourself because you think your worth comes from a man, because it doesn't, girls and women. We should not judge people based on their married or divorced status, because we don't know what happened between them, and we, therefore, cannot judge. Violence against women should be unacceptable, and leaders worldwide should create more laws to protect women. Being submissive to a good man is not a bad thing. Being submissive to a corrupt, cruel person who physically abuses you is not right. It's not right. So this is my works cited. When it comes to rights, rights should be given to both partners. That's my 2 cents.